Hello, ladies, gentlemen, and beautiful people of the internet. Welcome to the Avalon News. It's yet another episode, and in today's episode, what we're going to be covering, number one, we're going to start from home. We're going to talk a little bit about the Matter protocol, the Matter platform, and its implications with the smart home devices that we have. From there, we're going to be traveling to a specific country, and that is the Israel, and how an Israeli software is creating havoc in the rest of the world, including India. And finally, we're also going to be talking about a certain Jewish concept, which is also a part of the Israeli food culture and religion, and some new updates to this very specific rule. So I'll see you on the other side. Why don't you all like that animations popped up, because I'm pretty sure you're going to like the end of this video and the entire video. So give us a like, drop in a subscribe, and I'll see you on the other side of the intro.
Follow your passion might be a perfect question to ask and might have a perfect answer when interpreted right.
Let's start tracking which stocks can actually go up and go down, or which stocks have an advantage with the vaccine coming out.
Why it would have been more expensive to fake a moon landing back in those days. It's quite an interesting video to watch.
The economic activity created from the App Store alone is worth $500 billion.
So let's move on to the next question.
Man, it was too easy.
Too easy, no? Why didn't you answer? Alright guys, welcome back. So let's get started with the first news. Right now, we're all pretty much living in the future. What do I mean by this? I recently came across this beautiful quote which says that future is not just a matter of time. In fact, the future is already here. It's just that it's unevenly distributed. Some parts of the world are living in the future, whereas other parts are still living in the past. And I'm pretty sure you'd agree to that. And one of those things that make us feel like we're living in the future are smart home devices, right? The Internet of Things, IoT, connected homes. But one thing that stopped a lot of us from purchasing these consumer goods of, smart home devices is that they're only partnered, or they can only be used with certain assistants. Right? Some IoT devices work only with, say, an Alexa, whereas others only with a Google Assistant, whereas other maybe with an Apple device. So to go over this, to bypass this, and to make this a lot more better, to make it a lot more connected, there's a new platform. In fact, it was launched a couple of years ago, and it got recently rebranded in May 2021, and that is called Matter. So let's have that first slide up. All right, and you can see I've highlighted that particular symbol. Now, companies like Apple, Amazon, Google, usually you hear them fight, right? You hear them competing over each other because they're all pretty much in the same business. But here they're coming together with this new platform, which is called the Matter platform. And you can go to the website. This screenshot is from the website buildwithmatter.com. And that seal right there, so Matter describes itself as a seal, very similar to the Wi-Fi seal, right? So the next time you decide to buy, say, a smart home device, you want to look for a device which has that seal. And a recent update has come where Amazon has said that in the future, all its devices will have this Matter seal on it. This used to be called the Connected Home over Internet Protocol, or CHIP for short. And there was an alliance. That alliance was called the Zigbee Alliance, and the Zigbee Alliance got rebranded to the CSA, right? So the CS Alliance. And all of this has come, and in 2021, which is this year, we're set to see a launch for this. So the future products that we're coming, this is not going to affect the past products. It's all for the future products. Try to look for the seal on it. Okay, moving on to the next news. On the next news, we spoke about smart home devices. Now, what do smart home devices do? They include all kinds of things, right? They include surveillance devices, security devices, etc. A very interesting segue is this concept of Pegasus, or the Pegasus surveillance and the Pegasus spyware that has recently come onto the news. That picture on the left right there, that is a depiction of the Greek mythological character of Pegasus and the person on top of him, which is Bellerophon, a hero. Right? And the story goes like this. So Pegasus is this beautiful white horse with wings, and it travels, it's been traveling around. It's this offspring of Poseidon. And one day this Greek hero, Bellerophon, sees this Pegasus, it goes to it and it decides to hop onto it. And on the journey it defeats this another mythological character called Chimera. A Chimera is a character which is basically a combination of, say, a lion, a goat, and one with a snake's tail. And it's a very common depiction. In fact, this has also been recently later on taken in other depictions as Saint George, for example. So Bellerophon, the hero. What is very characteristic of that image is that Bellerophon sits on top of Pegasus and he holds a spear and he pokes Chimera with that. Now, why am I telling you all of this? Pegasus is also the name of a spyware, okay, that is manufactured by the Israeli team. It's a company called NSO. N stands for Niv Karmi, S stands for Shalev Julio, and O stands for Omri Lavi. Now, what are they? Or who are they? They are the founders of the NSO group. They used to work with the Israeli security, a unit called the 8200 or the 8200, and their job was to produce signal intelligence. Their job was to help countries, identify and help with security. In fact, the Mexican president, they praised NSO, the NSO group, because they helped capture El Chapo, right? The Pegasus software, it helped capture El Chapo. In fact, Pegasus came into the news a couple of years ago when WhatsApp said that, hey, there are some issues and the spyware is affected. So the way Pegasus works is with two things. One is 0-day vulnerabilities. So let's go on to how softwares are made. So when a developer is making a particular software, say, and the Apple OS, when they're doing it, they may not be aware of some of the vulnerabilities till the product goes out. 0 day, the first day. Now, when the product goes out, these hackers, ethical hackers, for example, identify them, and then they identify these vulnerabilities or exploits called 0-day vulnerabilities, 0-day exploits. Pegasus takes advantage of this. It takes advantage of this, and it also uses another concept with another zero in it called zero-click links, which means these are links where the person on the other side does not even need to click on a link. It just receives that link, and now that phone is exposed completely. So Apple came in, then when these vulnerabilities were exposed, they fixed it with a lot of patches. But now when Pegasus come up with this new spyware, what has happened is that the old phones are still vulnerable. And this is not just Apple, it's even for the Android. A lot of this has come into the news recently because it says that these are like dual use technologies, which means they have a benefit, but they can also be used bad in the wrong hands. And some governments apparently have been alleged to have bought the Pegasus software or the spyware to spy on certain personalities, right? And this is now hit the news. Again, this is an allegation, so I don't want to delve deep into speculation and is this true, is that not true? But a lot of prime ministers, presidents, including Imran Khan from Pakistan, Emmanuel Macron from France, they've all been identified as being surveilled, right? That this surveillance protocol was being used against them. So we'll have to see if this is true. I just wanted to give you guys a little bit more brief into why the name Pegasus comes into being. It's because of the spear, and the spear poking into it. It's called spear phishing, right? Spear phishing basically means poking holes into something and then infiltrating it. So that's the idea of it, and I wanted to give you a little bit more context on what zero-click links are, what zero-day vulnerabilities are. So go through this. The other countries that have been said to have been bought this is Hungary, Morocco, Azerbaijan, Kazakhstan, Rwanda, UAE, Bahrain, Mexico, Saudi Arabia, and finally India too. So that is the alleged situation right now. Awesome. Let's go on to the final news. So we are in Israel, and I mentioned about this Pegasus. The reason why this is kind of scary is because the Pegasus software has also been said to be a weapon. It's a weapon, a threat weapon, and one that therefore follows the export rules of other weapons, which means without the Israel government's knowledge, a product like this cannot be sent across, right? So that gives it a lot more allegations, speculations, etc. Okay, now we spoke about Israel, we spoke about Pegasus. Here's another news that has come into the limelight, and that is the kosher rules. So you might have heard of this famous ice cream brand called Ben & Jerry's. And Ben & Jerry's decided to stop serving the ice cream in certain parts of the West Bank and the Palestine. When they did that, now groceries are fighting back with Ben & Jerry's, saying that, hey, we are going to stop putting the kosher certification on your products. Now, what is this kosher certification and why is it come into the news again? Not just with the Ben & Jerry issue, but again. So now, kosher is very similar to, say, what we have in India too, the halal or the jatka, whereas religious groups have certain religious standards or rules, and those apply onto how you're supposed to eat these products or how you should consume them and what can be consumed, what cannot be consumed. So kosher has 3 food categories. One is meat, which includes your mammals and fowls. Number 2 is dairy, which includes milk, cheese, butter, etc. And the third is something called paraveh. And paraveh basically stands for fish, eggs, vegetables. And the word literally translates to parver, which means independent, which means an independent category all in its own. Now, kosher is the type of food and that obeys the rules called kashrut. So there's a series of rules. For example, you cannot combine chicken or a meat with milk. And the reason they say that is because you do not want to cook the baby in the mother's milk, right? So that is the concept that they have. In fact, they have a lot of other rules too. For example, you cannot eat particular mammals, etc. that like the kangaroo or the dolphin, crustaceans. They don't allow that, things that don't have scales and fins. And they have outlined certain rules, and this is called the kashrut rule. Now, why is it in the news again is because this set of rules and which food belongs to which agrees with the kosher certification and which does not, was till now been done by the chief rabbinate, the rabbi, right? It was been done by them, and they are the most powerful authority in Judaism in Israel. But now the government of Israel is coming and saying that we want to privatize this certification. So then the question might be like, okay, what's wrong with that? So the government has said that currently it's very haphazard, it's not very proper, it's not safe. We want to do it a lot more systematic. But the chief rabbinate is against this, and the reason they are against this is because the government has told this particular rules. They have also said that there are going to be different levels of kosher certification, which means some products which may not be kosher certified may also be given that certification in a lower level. But for a consumer from the outside who is looking at it, they might look at that certification and they might be like, hey, that is kosher certificate, not realizing that some parts of it is not. So that's why the chief rabbinate is against this, but the government is seriously pushing forward for this because they wanted to enter into modernity, in the new world, allow the culture to be experienced, allow the country to experience different types of foods, cuisines, and to make the whole process a lot more systematic. So there's a lot of tug and forth going on with this. I wanted to share this insight with you because the next time you see what the kosher is, you get a little bit more understanding on what that is. Okay. So like always, I hope you all enjoyed today's news. I hope you learned something. I hope you got something which helps you explore this news and the news in the coming days a lot more better. If you did, I would love to hear your comments, your likes, your subscribe. They matter to us. Thank you all. See you next time.